Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Serial Gaming here, and if you didn't realize, I actually purchased a new mic called M-Grass, which is actually really decent for 20 bucks. It eliminates all the background noises, so if you do plan to purchase a new mic for some reason, or if you do content creating as well, I do highly recommend purchasing this one. But anyway, let's just get straight to the point. Before we get started, Final Fantasy VIII is eating good this month, boys. We're getting Rinoa and Fujin early, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised that they actually gave us the Force Enhancement 50 early as well. So we're looking at FR retain, which means a certain amount of HP damage bonus will retain after the 10 turn of Force time, leading you to do, for example, 500% instead of the usual 0% of HP damage bonus. And this is actually really good for Turn Hogger in that situation because they actually can right now be useful since their turn hogging will no longer be affected by the 10 turn force time situation. But leaving that aside, let's focus on what we're going to talk about today, which is to rank all the upcoming units. We're actually getting 9 units this month. To be honest, it's just so much fun that we're getting so many units in a single month. But I'm also quite skeptical whether this will continue to be so when we finally caught up to JP, or will it go back into the 4 events per month kind of situation, which I really don't fancy and wish that if we're being spoiled like this, honestly jumping back into that period of event it's really gonna suck. But yeah, let's just move forward, starting off from the last of the bunch. I honestly don't find Zidane to be a very bad character. I think all 9 heroes here surprisingly is actually quite decent, just as long as you want to use them properly. Zidane has the issue of being a turn hogger, but then again FR50 is going to be a thing, so the retain part is going to be helpful for Zidane since he deletes the enemy, so you won't be expecting to see a huge amount of damage loss with him turn hogging in that situation. But looking at the HP dumps that Zidane can deal, his EX actually deals a whoop ass of 12 HP damage, while also initiate launches, which add up to additional 2 more HP attack, so that will add up to 14 HP attack on his EX for a single target. And that itself is actually quite decent because Zidane has a very fast recharge capability on his EX. The only problem is, when he breaks the enemy, he will delete their turn, which is his utility, but he will also gain another turn. So essentially there's a amount of force time loss every time Zidane takes a turn. Kind of like the lock situation, because you're not access to the strongest attack every single time. But then again, for you to use your strongest attack, for Zidane in this case, if he do breaks the enemy, which means he has to sacrifice another force time on a much weaker attack. But looking at his FR, as a main, it's actually not that bad because it actually has a 20% HP damage cap up on the entire party. But still kind of sad. They should have probably gave him more since he comes off more of a utility right now. He also provides healing when you have his BT, which is rather, I would say, reliable as a healer but not really needed because his turn delusion allows you to always push the enemy back. So unless the enemy produce a damage, which comes later in the Rich Junior era, where that damage can comes off from without the enemy taking turns, you can actually rely on Zidane on that heal. But other than that, I don't think the heal is that interesting. Okay, looking at the con part, yeah, Zidane doesn't really have an identity in my opinion. He's a turn deletion, he deals some good damage, but not too much. He actually turn hogs and then he heals. All in all, I think Zidane can be rather interesting to use, but in terms of his utility and his damage, unfortunately, I'm just gonna put in dead last in this entire lineup. Sorry Zidane and sorry Lard, I know you like him as a character, but I just don't see justify putting him anywhere above all the other characters. But coming up next, we have Fusoya. Alright, the Paralysis Man returns with a vengeance because right now he has his BT. His FR remains to be a rather interesting FR because it does provide a 50% HP damage cap up on the FR main, which is actually really good. and it's a rather easy to fulfill FR, so that's why N 75% on turn, not that big but still pretty decent. He stacked Paralysis for those who never used Fusoya before, but the Paralysis can only be stacked if the Paralysis is already on the enemy. So he don't land the Paralysis with his LD and his BT finisher, but he lands it with his skill, and then extends it with his LD, and so on and so forth. So with that in mind, if you want to extend the Paralysis or make it as long as possible, you want Fusoya to at least get 2 consecutive turns before the enemy takes a turn, which makes it rather awkward for him to land the extension, because the idea behind Paralysis is that you want to make sure the enemy doesn't move, and if the enemy is slow, there's no reason to actually apply the Paralysis. But for this to be extendable, Fusoya have to go 2 turns before the enemy takes a turn. So unless you're using some form of turn manipulation like Sid Rain or like Lunar Freya, Fusoya can be rather awkward to apply the extension. Alright, so looking at his other utility, he actually provides really good damage. He has 9 AoE HP attack with his EX, and with his BT active, he gained a squall-like effect where he constantly refreshes EX every time he takes a turn. And he also provided Brave Refund, kind of like Snow, after every HP attack to the entire party, except his Brave Refund is based on the initial bravery of the party. So with him in the party, it's a lot easier for your character to cap, which makes him as an aura bot to be rather interesting, and can go through situations like the shield buff, for example, because you're still refunding your bravery despite not dealing good bravery damage. Overall, Fusoya can be rather interesting, but he lacks a little bit more utility as a supportive unit. He extends his Paralysis, yes, he provides good damage, yes, and he provides a good amount of bravery refund, which is a form of aura bot like I mentioned, but he doesn't have healing, he doesn't have FR battery / supercharging, so that part might be a little bit less intimidating for you to bring him as a main stapler for your supportive capability unit, and you might opt him or leave him as a third add-on instead. Alright, there's only one reason in my opinion to put Karen this high up as compared to the other two, is that he provides a very high amount of HP damage cap out to the entire party, and it's very easy to fulfill. Easily you can look at his BT effect and his FR as a main. You're providing a whoop ass of 100% HP damage cap up on all attack. His armor is also in the supportive aura bot department, where he provides a 15% HP damage cap out to the entire party, so that's a total of 115% to the entire party on every single ability that you use. It's not just limited to EX or HP attack like what Queen has. Karen in that department supports a little bit better, and it's more flexible to be slotted in as a third add-on supportive unit to your entire party. His only problem is he himself doesn't do as much outside of being the aura bot that he does. He provides battery, yes, he provides brave gain up, yes, but he doesn't really have a very good damage or really any other utility whatsoever. Alright, jumping up next is gonna be my favorite character of all time in the entire Final Fantasy verse, which is Rinoa. Alright, Rinoa doesn't really gain much in terms of her echo. She's still slightly, I think it's almost similar, just a little bit add on to the fact where party members also gain 80% on turn instead of just Rinoa herself. And there's a reason why I put an X on the main part, because Rinoa FR isn't really the easiest FR HP damage condition to fulfill, because you need to be below 100%, which sounds like it's easy enough because Rinoa does reduce the entire party HP with her FR, but then again, it's not easy to maintain being below because you constantly heal yourself with her regeneration aura. So again, Rinoa FR as the main is just not great. Use it as an echo, and there's no HP damage cap up comes with this FR, which makes it a lot less desirable to use it. But anyway, let's just move on to her rework. She basically gained a 40% HP damage cap out every time she used her HP Ultima while she's in the Angel Wing form. So yeah, I think they gave her a squall-like effect where it's kind of unique. It's only tied to this HP attack, but yeah, she basically gained that. And her HP attack is now finally full damage, so it's a lot easier for Rinoa to cap, especially when you're dealing damage to 3 enemies. And she is a FR battery and supercharger, which is kind of rare in DPS department, so that makes Rinoa slightly better in terms of comparing her with other DPS character, in my opinion, like Yuffie for example. And she's also a pseudo healer, mind you though, she doesn't heal a lot, so unless it's an emergency, you don't really want her to go into that stance. And her HP attack is not tied to her BT duration. This is absolutely amazing because I love the fact where the BT duration doesn't really affect anything outside of giving her a little bit more aura and HP damage cap up. And of course, she has a unique ultimate weapon, which makes her one of the easiest ultimate weapon to be given to. Yeah. And the problem with Rinoa, like I mentioned in here, is that regardless of how good she is and how much HP damage cap they're trying to pump her, she still doesn't deal enough HP dumps considering the lack of utility that she does. For example, Reno actually delays the entire party with his HP attack and he deals 11 full HP attack. And Celsius, which I'll be discussing later, and you'll find out why I rank Celsius higher than Rinoa in this department as well. And of course, like I said, she inflicts HP damage on herself and the party with her FR and HP attack, so making her a little bit more vulnerability in terms of dealing with the damage from the enemy itself. Okay, so I was actually rather hesitate to put Kater this high up because I was thinking whether or not she deserved to be this high up, considering the fact we just got Woofy Boy earlier, and right now he's dealing so much more damage as compared to Kater. But then again, I read her BT effect and everything. I realized instead of comparing her with the Wolf Boy, because you know we always look at evasion and things, and they're both evasion, so that's why the comparison is there. I think Kater is slightly more similar to Rydia at the moment, but Rydia of course get better later down the line. But what Kater has is a party-wide evasion, which is what Rydia provides. So in this case, your party is not just protected by Kater locking all the enemy onto herself. They are also protected by the all attack as long as it's not guaranteed, making this a lot better than expected. She also has a 5% on-off turn situation of her attack. Granted, she's not the best when it comes to the HP damage bonus that you're getting when you use on-turn attack, but she does provide additional damage from off-turn, and she does counter twice with her BT effect, so that makes it a lot easier to fulfill. And of course, you know, Kater actually has a party-wide Ice Enchant, so that is also allowing your party to hit the condition that she provides. On turn though, it just really sucks. 8%, I mean 8% per turn, that is just so bad. Even with Echo, you're only getting like 25%, so that's just not really good. On turn wise, if you're using an FR Echo though, it actually provides 30% HP damage cap up, so still really good in that situation. Kater, in all honesty, I still think Kater is better solo wise as compared to having a team. But in terms of going into sorting her into a team composition, it's still way easier than Woofy Boy. I keep saying Woofy Boy when we all know his name is Kelga. I just can't help it. But anyway, so Kater is like a pseudo tank, but like Kelga, she doesn't have any form of damage mitigation or healing aura. So in the form where enemy has guaranteed attack or have that hybrid guaranteed attack in between those attacks, she can be a little bit risky to run in, and you might need some calls to help you to heal back a little bit of those damage dealt. But yeah, I think overall, Kater is still a very decent character. She's like an upgraded version of Rydia FR at the moment, until of course Rydia gets her own FR Echo. Kater is also tied to gun unique weapon, which makes it a little bit less desirable because let's be honest, we don't have a lot of gun unique weapon at the moment. 母なるクリスタルの光よ、我が手のひらにて聖なるくさびとなり死を砕け。 But yeah, finally we come to the top 4 where I put Celsius. Is it called Celsius? Did I pronounce it correctly? Or is it Celsius? I don't know. The H is kind of like a silent, I guess. But yeah, you realize I put both in the main and the FR Echo because it's just really easy to fulfill and it provides 80% on turn. It doesn't have any HP damage cap out tied to it, so it's not that desirable to choose it. To be honest, nowadays almost everyone has HP damage cap up, so I think it's just when you lack it, even though it's really easy to fulfill the HP damage condition, it might be way less desirable when FR retain is coming, considering the fact that it's so much easier for us to hit the 999% HP damage bonus. But anyway, Celtus has a huge attack on his HP attack. Again, another HP attack unit like I mentioned. So he does 11 full HP attack, and it also heals and batteries the entire party. So Celtus battery actually comes in very similar form as what Root LD does, which is when you overheal your entire party, it converts the excess amount of heals into bravery and then batteries your entire party. On top of that, he also has max HP overflow, and he does provide revive. Not that it's a very usability wise, it's not that common, but he also has an 8-turn paralysis gold debuff when he uses his BT finisher. So that can be actually quite interesting because it doesn't allow the enemy to move, and that for freaking 8 turns. So if you're running him in an off-turn team composition, he'll function really well with units like Core, where they just counter anyway, and you can have the enemy paralyzed when they're about to use their all attack so that Core can counter even more. And of course, Celtus is a unique ultimate weapon, another new unit with a unique ultimate weapon. So you can imagine how easy for you to maximize his damage with another Ultima unit weapon. He doesn't really has any flaws. I think he's one of the few characters that I really can't find any faults in it. The only problem is he provides so much utility, but you don't really has much capability to use all of that utility wise. I personally find him to be overcompensating into something which is not required, so he's just more like all this utility but you're not going to use it anyway, that kind of situation. But yeah,
終わりにしようか。これが星と戦う力さ。
I surprise myself sometimes when I put Kadash this high, but looking at his main, it actually provides 80% on turn, which is quite a good number, and he has a 50% HP damage cap up on his FR main, which is even better. He also has a follow-up, which you know, on the target that have 5 stacks of his debuff, and right now with his BT effect, the debuff doesn't go down no longer, so you can have both enemy at 5 stacks instead of just focusing on the one like he did before. And his follow-up now consists of 6 single target HP attack, which makes him the highest single target follow-up attacker with a huge ass of 6 HP dumps. So that can be actually really interesting. And if I'm not wrong though, his HP attack actually comes after launches. So all the follow-up attack that he does doesn't really count or calculated into the war damage, which is really sad. But anyway, Kadash himself also do very good damage because he actually double follow-up on every single attack that he does. So that can be really interesting because he actually follow up likewise double time as compared to when you use it on party members. So Kadash also stops bravery gain from the enemy, kind of like Yuffie's EX with his capability. He also has cold debuff, and of course if you recall, you actually can abuse this cold debuff by giving him the right amount of spear and then having him taking over one of the debuff formed by your cold characters. But yeah, that can look up in the Tomberry trope site, I believe they wrote about it. He's also a unique ultimate weapon, which again is going to make it really easy for you to give him the strongest attack, the strongest weapon. The only problem with Kadash is, of course, the short BT effect. I think like Weiss in this case, he only has 6 turns of BT effect, making him less desirable for you to enter his own BT phase. Other than that, I think Kadash is a very strong character. Until Kais, he's actually the strongest single target. He will remain as the strongest single target follow-up attacker. So yeah, that makes him a good plus on that. Alright, so Deuce and Kadash and Celtus can actually be quite interchangeable. Deuce is better in the aura bot department, Kadash is better in the follow-up, whereas Celtus is just an all-rounder, a little bit mix of both. But yeah, Deuce, why do I think she's actually really interesting? Because she actually provides a 20% HP damage cap up to the entire party, which comes in the form of a buff after she do her follow-up attack, which is again from her BT effect. So this actually can be utilized in a sense where you're damage testing, you just want to bring as many friend unit as you want, you have her perform this HP attack, which provide 20% HP damage cap out for 4 turns to the entire party, and then have her swap out with another unit and then have that unit use their BT plus, for example, to provide even more HP damage cap out. It's not the highest HP damage cap out, it's 20%, but it's just a way to break through even higher ceiling, and of course, it's really good if you're going for the damage testing. And Deuce also has an instant turn FR, while this may not be as good as when we get them in the early era of FR Echo, because now everyone has FR Echo, making it getting instant turn not really a good thing sometimes. But I still think it's really nice and it's really easier to time your FR Echo with instant turn FR. But anyway, she also does follow-up effect, which is similar to Rosa, similar to Lena in this case, where she just follow up with a BT effect with 3 additional HP attack. But I think the rather awkward part about Deuce is her FR, because using as a main doesn't provide any single HP damage cap out. I think it's rather common with a supportive unit like Lena, and Rosa also doesn't provide HP damage cap out. But it's actually really interesting because she provides 80% on turn and is superchargeable, so it sounds really high, right? But the fact that it needs your party to battery the entire party to have this condition fulfilled, and I'm not really a huge fan of battering the entire party as one of the conditions, because you know that's not applicable to anyone, and to be honest, sometimes finding the right unit for this one can be quite tricky. But then again, when it comes to team composition, it can be quite fun to actually find someone that actually pairs really well in this case. And cons wise, I don't really see any other thing. Probably just the reuse of music in her BT finisher is basically just her skill 1, her skill 2, her EX and her LD all mixed up into one BT finisher. Kinda sad considering there's so many tunes that Deuce can possibly play, but yeah. And the champion of the month, which is surprisingly the loser of the month when she was first released with her FR. Fujin now comes back with a vengeance. Right now she has a 90% on turn and it's really easy to fulfill, unlike before. She also has 20% HP damage cap out with launchers when you use her FR as a main. And while Fujin's BT is active, the entire party or the entire enemy gain a selfie LD aura-like effect where they'll always be launchable from their attack. So that makes Fujin a new selfie, which makes launch meta again. But anyway, the best part about Fujin, of course, is that additional wall damage with her BT effect. So she essentially provides a extra 50% HP damage on top of what you dealt to the enemy. For example, if you cap at 1,000,000, the total damage including the wall damage is going to be 1.5 mil, which is a huge amount of the ceiling that you're looking at. For example, if you're running units like Astos, which you know you already cap at ceilings anyway, so you're due, for example, like 1 mil or 1.1 mil for every single attack, and then with Fujin, add on another 50% on that, which makes it absolutely insane. I think Fujin is highly underrated when she was released in JP, and then people just realized how good she was later down the line and everyone started pulling her. Also, if you're a Fujin user like me, you'll know that every time your party attack with the Wind Elemental Enchant from Fujin and the Wind resist down from the enemy, you know that every time you hit weakness damage, you battery the entire party, which makes it a lot easier to cap your bravery even after doing all those launches. So Fujin is just really good all-rounder as a additional launcher unit, and she also has Often Trap. The only problem with the Often Trap in Fujin's case is that she has high speed, she has turn manipulation, and she wants to do launch. So to really trigger the Often, you need to let the enemy take turn, which is not really that desirable for Fujin's case because you want all party members to participate in the launch. And of course, if the enemy is not launchable, rare, but there is the cases, then Fujin is going to just be benched because all her kit and her utility is not going to be really good anymore. And of course, she's tied to Wind Elemental, so Not that it's common, but if the enemy for some reason hate tycoons, then yeah, Fujin is gonna go back into the bench. Anyway, that's about my ranking. I'm gonna put Fujin at the first, surprisingly, and I swear to God, this is not because she's Final Fantasy VIII. There's no bias in here. She's just really, really good. If there's bias in here, we know it's gonna be second. Yeah, but Fujin surprisingly came up top here, providing the fact that she's way bad when she was first released during her FR. Right now, she's just so good. She's even one of the strongest unit currently in JP. So just fucking move for her. But anyway, guys, is it similar to what you guys anticipated, or is there any changes you'd like to comment on it? Do let me know down in the comments below. As for my pool plan, of course, I'm going to pull for Fujin. That's a no-brainer. Rinoa is just going to be a free upgrade. I wanted to pull for Deuce because I really like her kit. She was one of the reasons why I was considering skipping Lena, because I think she and Lena is quite similar in a sense, but then again, Deuce is so much better, unique weapon. But I'm also pulling for Keita. Surprisingly, I wasn't planning this, but I really had her maxed out, had her max spear, because during that time she helps a lot during my early years of playing the game, so I just maxed her out. So I'm just gonna pull for her. She seems fun enough. Other than that, all the other characters are all skipped, except probably might pull Kadaj, only because he does look interesting, and I really like single target follow-up attackers like Noctis. So that's about it. Yeah, guys, thank you again for watching. Do let me know down in the comments if you find anything that is different here and you like to voice out your opinion. Feel free, I like to know. And like usual, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.